Welcome, fellow explorers of history and religion, to a captivating journey into the heart of one of the most mysterious beliefs of ancient Egypt afterlife. Prepare to venture into the land of the pharaohs, where life didn't end with death, but rather, it was a gateway to a world of unparalleled wonder. So, sit back, and let's embark on a quest to understand the profound mysteries of the ancient Egyptian afterlife. To begin with, it is essential to understand the mummification process and how the body was prepared to transition to the afterlife. The process of mummification in ancient Egypt was a complex and thoroughly executed procedure designed to preserve the bodies of the deceased for the afterlife. This practice was deeply rooted in Egyptian religious beliefs and their concept of the afterlife. The process typically began shortly after a person's death. The body was taken to a special workshop known as the Ibu, where the embalmers, often priests with specialized knowledge, would carry out the mummification. The process usually took around 70 days. The embalmers began by purifying both the body and the workspace. They would cleanse themselves with purifying rituals and use natron, a type of natural salt, to purify the body. Natron had a drying effect, which helped in the preservation process. The internal organs, except for the heart, were removed because the heart was believed to be the seat of the soul. The organs, including the brain, were typically extracted through the nostrils or from an incision in the left side of the body. The organs were then individually preserved. After removing the organs, the body was covered in natron to facilitate the drying process. The natron was also applied to the body cavities. The body was left in a dry and cool environment for several weeks to ensure complete desiccation. Once the body was thoroughly dried, it was washed and carefully wrapped in linen bandages. These bandages were often soaked in resin to provide additional protection and to help maintain the body's shape. Amulets and charms were sometimes placed between the layers of bandages. A mask was placed over the face of the deceased. This mask was decorated in detail. It served to protect the face and also to help the deceased recognize themselves in the afterlife. The wrapped mummy was placed inside one or more coffins. These coffins were elaborately decorated and inscribed with spells and prayers to assist the deceased in their journey through the afterlife. In some cases, multiple coffins were nested within each other. The final coffin, often made of stone or wood, was placed inside a sarcophagus. After the mummification process, a funeral ceremony was held, where family and priests would offer prayers, charms, and offerings to ensure a safe passage to the afterlife. The deceased's belongings and personal items were often included in the tomb to provide for their needs in the afterlife. Ancient Egyptian funeral rituals were a vital part of their culture, deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs and the quest for eternal life. These practices reflected a profound respect for the deceased and a strong belief in the continuity of the soul in the afterlife. The mummy and associated items were placed in a tomb or burial chamber within a pyramid or a tomb. The tomb was sealed to protect the deceased and their belongings. The family of the deceased would continue to perform rituals and offer prayers at the tomb to ensure the well-being of the deceased in the afterlife. The mummification process was not only a physical preservation method, but also a spiritual journey for the deceased. It was deeply rooted in the belief that the individual's soul would need a well-preserved body to continue its journey in the afterlife. Mummification played a central role in ancient Egyptian culture for over 3,000 years and remains one of the most enduring symbols of their civilization. With our knowledge of the mummification process firmly in place, we will now unravel the secrets of the ancient Egyptian afterlife, a belief system that shaped their entire civilization. In ancient Egypt, life after death, often referred to as the afterlife or the field of reeds, was envisioned as a continuation of earthly life, but in a paradise-like realm filled with rewards and eternal bliss. The ancient Egyptians had complex and detailed beliefs about what life after death would be like, and these beliefs were central to their culture and religion. The journey to the afterlife was believed to be a dangerous one, and it began with the soul leaving the earthly realm and entering the Duat, the realm of the dead. The afterlife in ancient Egypt was often referred to as the Duat. The Duat was a mysterious and intricate world filled with dangers and challenges that the soul had to navigate. Upon entering the Duat, the deceased's soul would come before the divine tribunal, presided over by Osiris, the god of the afterlife who was responsible for the judgment of the deceased. In the hall of Maat, the heart of the deceased was weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. If the heart was found to be pure and lighter than the feather, the soul was deemed worthy of entering the afterlife. If not, the soul faced destruction. If the soul passed the judgment, they were granted access to the field of reeds, a paradise-like realm. This was a place of eternal abundance and happiness, where the soul would experience an idealized version of earthly life. The field of reeds was depicted as a fertile land with lush gardens, fields, and waterways. In the field of reeds, the soul would enjoy the rewards of their virtuous life on earth. There was no hunger, thirst, or suffering. The land produced abundant crops, and the waters flowed with milk and honey. The soul could enjoy the bounties of this realm without toil or hardship. The afterlife also offered the opportunity for the soul to reunite with deceased loved ones. Family members and friends who had passed away would be there to share in the eternal happiness. This reunion was a source of great comfort to the deceased. Life in the afterlife was not just about physical pleasures. The soul could also continue its spiritual journey and seek enlightenment. It could worship the gods, learn from divine beings, and gain a deeper understanding of the mysteries of the universe. In the field of reeds, the soul was granted eternal life and permanent youth. The deceased would never age or experience illness. This state of perpetual youth symbolized the idea of eternal existence. The ancient Egyptians believed that the deceased could continue to influence and assist the living. Offerings, prayers, and rituals performed by the living at the tomb were seen as a way to maintain this connection and seek the guidance and protection of the deceased. The concept of life after death in ancient Egypt was a profound and intricate belief system that shaped every aspect of their culture and religion. It provided hope, comfort, and motivation for individuals to live virtuous lives and prepare meticulously for the journey to the afterlife, where they believed eternal happiness awaited. In ancient Egyptian belief, the ultimate goal was for the deceased soul to reach the Aru, where they could enjoy eternal bliss. However, if a person's soul did not make it to the afterlife, there were potential consequences, though these were not as explicitly defined as concepts like heaven or hell in Abrahamic religions. The most severe consequence for a soul that did not make it to the afterlife was the destruction or annihilation of the soul. This fate awaited those whose hearts were found to be heavy with sin and impurity during the judgment in the Hall of Maat. However, some texts and depictions in ancient Egyptian literature suggest the idea that some souls that were not granted access to the field of reeds were not all destroyed. Instead, these souls were depicted as wandering aimlessly in a miserable and empty realm, unable to find rest or happiness. This was not a place of punishment in the traditional sense, but rather a state of eternal unrest. Souls that were not found worthy in the judgment might be denied access to the abundant food and water of the afterlife. This would leave them in a state of permanent hunger and thirst, which was seen as a form of suffering. It's important to understand that ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife were complex and multifaceted. The emphasis was primarily on the positive aspects of the afterlife, and the potential negative outcomes were often depicted more as a lack of reward or a lack of existence, rather than a place of punishment such as hell. The ancient Egyptians believed in the importance of moral behavior in life and the desire for a positive outcome in the afterlife, rather than focusing on fear of punishment after death. The concept of the Egyptian afterlife, where the soul's journey continued beyond death, has left a permanent mark on human history. It reminds us of our shared fascination with the great unknown and the enduring quest for understanding the afterlife as culture, time, and culture transcends. We hope this exploration has shed light on this intricate belief system and its enduring legacy. If you have enjoyed our journey, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel for more enlightening explorations of religion and culture throughout the ages.